Welcome to Practical Theology. In this video, we're going to just look at the very simple question, what is theology? You know, it's in the title of this channel, Practical Theology, and it's something that we don't talk about often. There's not a lot of YouTube people out there that talk about theology in our churches. We talk about it, or we do doctrines through sermons and through hopefully Sunday school and life groups and discipleship training. But just overall, what is theology? And theology, simply put, is the study of God. And it's something that we as Christians, we've got to do. We've got to study theology. One of the things that killed me, especially when I was doing a lot of work with youth years ago, is when you put the word study in there and you say we got to study something. That is immediately, there's people like, well, I don't want to study. You know, I'm so many years old. I done graduated high school. I don't want to study. Well, the interesting thing about it is we study whatever we're interested in. If you're a hunter, you study all about hunting. You know which gun you want to use. You know which what scope you want to put on there. You know distances. You know exactly about how to attract whatever animal that you're hunting. You know how to once you kill it, you know how to dress it out. You know everything there is to know about hunting. And you'll study that. You'll study different camouflage patterns and which is better, mossy oak or woodland or whatnot. You know, we study whatever we're interested in, regardless of what people think and regardless of the connotation of the term study. We study whatever we're interested in. So if you're a Christian, you should be interested in studying God. So there's different outlets of theology, basically, or categories. You got biblical theology. Biblical theology is studying the individual theology that is found within the individual books of the Bible. So what is the theology in Genesis, or what is the theology in Romans? And then you got historical theology. Historical theology goes back and looks at theologians past and really examines what their doctrinal beliefs are and what they believe about God. And then two, how do they derive to that opinion or belief about God? How did they get there? And you can look at all throughout history at Luther, Charles Spurgeon, A.W. Tozer, Augustine. There's so many theologians you can go back through, and some of them, like Augustine, a lot of Augustine's beliefs is what we still believe today. We may have tweaked it a little bit or changed some words here or some different things. So go back through. Historical theology is very, very important because a lot of our current doctrines have come from history. And how did they derive to that knowledge of it? How did they get there? So very important. Then you got philosophical theology. Philosophical theology is basically a branch of theology that either defends doctrinal points or maybe scrutinizes doctrinal points. You know, as we know, and as I said in my opening channel video, we live in a polarized society. And it seems like Christians nowadays, we eat each other alive. You know, somebody will say this and somebody will say that, and we get on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we want to basically either defend or scrutinize what they believe about God. So if you've ever done that, if you've ever looked at what somebody has said and really scrutinized every word that they said it, especially when it talks about doctrinal stuff, you are a philosophical theologian. Something to think about, something to ponder about. Then you got systematic theology. Systematic theology is a combination of biblical, historical, and philosophical theology. If you go into seminary, it's probably one of the first theology classes that you're going to have, and it goes through, and it's going to go through every different topic from the attributes of God, to Christology, to how did sin get here, the Holy Spirit. And it's going to look at the biblical theology of whatever topic you're looking at. And then it's going to probably discuss the history behind it, what theologians believed what about that subject. And then the author of it, whether you use Erickson or Grudem or whoever that you use for your textbook, he's probably going to do a philosophical type, either defending one of the views or maybe scrutinizing all the views and giving you his view of it. So that's a systematic theology. It's a combination of all of them. Going back to something I said really at the beginning of this video is the importance of knowing what we believe. As Christians, we need to study God. We should have a desire to study God, but we also just, generally speaking, if you believe in something, you need to know everything there is to know about it. You know, if you put your faith and trust in Jesus, you want to know more about him. So how do we get to a knowledge? How do we come by and derive our knowledge from God? And God reveals himself in two manners. He reveals himself through general revelation, and he reveals himself through special revelation. So we're going to talk about that just really briefly here and finish out this video. General revelation is being able for us to go out just into the world and come to a knowledge that there is a God. There's two specific verses or sections in the Bible that really discuss this. Psalms chapter 19 and Romans chapter 1. And I'm going to go ahead and read Psalms 19, 1 through 6 to you. I've got it pulled up here on my computer. This is going to be from the CSB version. It says, verse 1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the expanse proclaims the work of his hands. Day after day they pour out speech. Night after night they communicate knowledge. There is no speech, there are no words, their voice is not heard. Their message has gone out to the whole earth, and their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens he has pitched a tent for the sun. It is like a bridegroom coming from his home. It rejoices like an athlete's running a course. It rises from one end of the heavens and circles to the other end. Nothing is hidden from its heat. And one of the things I really like about that is if you look at verse 1, the chiastic structure of verse 1, and I'm not going to deal too much into it of what chiasms are all throughout the Old Testament. It's very popular in Hebrew writing, and you want to concentrate kind of on the center. What's focused here, and what the writer David here wants you to focus on is the center of the chiasm. So if you look at verse 1, it says we got the heavens. That's the first part, and then you got the work of his hands. What do the heavens do? The heavens declare. The expanse declares the work of his hands. But what is all that for? It is for the glory of God. The heavens and the skies clearly embody the glory of God. When you look out and you look at the skies and the beauty, it's fall time now when I'm recording this video, and you see all these beautiful fall colors. I mean, you go out and you can just see the glory of God when you step outside. The other verse is Paul in Romans chapter 18 verses, Romans chapter 1 verses 18 through 20. And it says, for God's wrath is revealed from heaven against all godlessness and unrighteousness of people who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. Since what can be known about God is evident among them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, that is, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen from the creation of the world, being understood through what he has made. As a result, people are without excuse. Paul is saying here is when you go out into nature and you see those beautiful fall colors and you see the beautiful sky that he's made, you're without excuse not knowing that there's not a God. God has given us, by nature, we've got sight and we've got intelligence, so we should be able to go out and look and see the beauty and glory of God. We should go out and see that there is a God. One of the things kind of getting into apologetic nature here is people that, well, I don't believe in God, or I believe in the Big Bang Theory, or things of that nature. And it kills me when people say they believe in that. All of a sudden some molecules mixed and there was this big explosion, and then the solar system was made, and the sky was made, and all these galaxies were made, and all of a sudden Earth was put in just its exact spot that it was far away from the sun, just enough far away from the sun that we wouldn't burn up, but also it was close enough to the sun that we wouldn't freeze to death. And then when this earth was made, just perfectly put in this exact spot where it can inhabit life, that all these molecules were able to form all these different species and all these different plants and all these different, all the different waters, and all this just miraculously happened. And then all these animals were able to, thrive. One of the questions I always asked is this, because as a father, I remember, when my daughter was born, for the first long while, that, she required a lot of care. I had to make sure that I changed her diaper. I had to make sure that she was fed. I had to make sure that she was protected. I had to make sure that, as a father taking care of my daughter, when the Big Bang Theory happened and all these organisms started producing, getting made, how did these animals eat as a baby? When they were first born, how were the, I don't understand how somebody can look at the Big Bang Theory and say, that is a valid form of the creation of this earth. You got to go back and look what God says in Genesis. Look at how everything is beautifully and wonderfully made. There's just no question that it is made by a loving God. So that is general revelation. Then you got special revelation. Special revelation is when God directly spoke to people. And we see that all throughout the Bible. You can look at, 2 Timothy 3:16. That's when God spoke and they recorded their words, and then, or spoke to other people, and the words were recorded. And they wrote these books, and so that's the special revelation. And we had the apostles and the prophets of the Old Testament, and that's how we gather our information of God. We get it from general revelation, but mainly through special revelation, through God's Word, being able to read His Word and just soak it in, and because we know everything that we need to know about God, Genesis through Revelation. Everything that we need to know is right there. And then we can look out in nature and see that there is a God. Now, we can't look out in nature and receive salvation through it. Salvation is through Jesus alone. So, but it goes through and it shows that when we look out in nature and we can see the divine attributes and we can see the divine creation, it points us to a need that we need to get to know God. It points us to a need that there is a God. And then we can find out all that we need to know about God through His Bible and the special revelation that He used to communicate through all the authors of the Bible. I appreciate everybody watching. If you don't mind, would you please like and subscribe to this video? If you have any questions or comments, please list them below. I hope everybody has a blessed day.